The small coastal town of Silvercliff, nestled on the rocky northwest shore, had always lived in harmony with the sea. The sound of waves crashing against the rocks and the cries of seagulls were an integral part of the lives of its residents. But for Nathan Clark, those sounds had become a bitter reminder of what the sea had taken from him. It had been 9 months since his wife, Laura, and their 8-year-old daughter, Emily, set out fishing in their small boat. It was their favorite pastime. Laura, an experienced angler, was teaching Emily the art of casting a rod. Nathan remembered their last conversation on the old wooden pier in Silvercliff's harbor. Emily, with her chestnut braids and sparkling eyes, was waving her new fishing rod, a birthday gift. "Dad, are you sure you're not coming with us?" she asked, pouting. Nathan smiled, adjusting her cap embroidered with a crab. "I've got to help old man Jackson with his boat, sweetheart. But you and Mom will have fun. She'll show you that spot where she caught the huge bass last year." Laura, checking their gear, winked at him. "Don't worry, we'll be back with a catch for dinner." Nathan waved as their boat pulled away. The weather forecast predicted only light rain by evening, nothing alarming. But a few hours later, the sky darkened, and a storm, unprecedented even for Silvercliff's seasoned sailors, unleashed its fury on the coast. Now Nathan stood on that same pier, the wind tugging at his jacket. He came here almost every day, as if it could bring Laura and Emily back. The search operation had been extensive. The Coast Guard, local fishermen, and volunteers combed the waters for weeks. For days after the storm, debris from their boat washed ashore, along with Laura's backpack, Emily's cap, and a water bottle with her name scrawled in marker. The authorities concluded that the boat had capsized, and Laura and Emily had drowned. But Nathan couldn't accept that truth. He organized additional searches, focusing on Fong Island, a small, forested speck of land 12 miles offshore. Silvercliff's youth sometimes held parties there, but otherwise the island was uninhabited. Nathan hoped Laura and Emily might have reached its shores, but neither there nor on nearby islands was anything found. The official search was called off, but Nathan persisted. Every weekend, weather permitting, he took his boat out and dove in new locations, expanding the search area, clinging to the faintest hope. That morning, Nathan was preparing his boat for another trip as usual. His diving gear was packed, and his map was marked with new coordinates. He knew what the townsfolk said about him, that he couldn't let go, that he needed to move on. But how could he move on without answers? His phone rang, and the screen displayed the number of the local police. Nathan's heart froze. "Mr. Clark, this is Officer Davis," came the voice. "You need to come to the station right away. We have news regarding your family." "What news?" Nathan gripped the phone so tightly his knuckles whitened. "A fisherman reported a sighting that may be related to your daughter. It's better to discuss this in person." "I'm already at the harbor, about to head out," Nathan replied, his voice trembling. "We're waiting for you. The fisherman is here with us." Nathan quickly unloaded his gear back into his truck, changed out of his wetsuit, and drove to the Silvercliff police station. On the way, he tried not to let hope overwhelm him. Over the past months, there had been several false leads that only deepened his pain. The station, a small office with a handful of officers handling everything from petty theft to water violations, was nearly empty. Officer Davis met him at the entrance. "Thank you for coming so quickly, Mr. Clark. What's going on?" Nathan couldn't wait any longer. "Come with me." Davis led him to a small room where another officer was speaking with a man Nathan recognized, a local fisherman he'd occasionally seen at the harbor. "Mr. Clark, this is Juan Martinez. He came in this morning with information that may relate to your family." Juan stood and shook Nathan's hand. "Sorry we're meeting under these circumstances." "What did you see?" Nathan asked, studying the fisherman closely. Juan shifted uncomfortably. "This morning, I was heading to Ridge Island. I deliver supplies and parts to the weather station there once a week." Nathan nodded, familiar with the remote scientific outpost. "On my way back, I took a shortcut through the old channel by the abandoned Black Rock Lighthouse. It saves time." He paused, as if choosing his words carefully. It was foggy this morning, poor visibility. But as I passed the lighthouse, I saw. It looked like a girl standing on the dock, about 8 or 9 years old. She was waving at me. Nathan felt his pulse pound in his temples. A girl? Are you sure? It was hard to see clearly in the fog, but something about her seemed familiar. Juan continued. When I got back to the harbor and saw one of your missing persons posters, with your daughter's picture, I thought it might be her. Officer Davis interjected. Mr. Martinez wasn't entirely certain, which is why he came to us instead of contacting you directly. Is the lighthouse still operational? Nathan asked. No, it was decommissioned years ago and sold to a private owner, Davis replied, checking his notes. It was purchased by a man named William Grayson about 20 years ago. He claimed he maintains it as a historical site. Do you have his contact information? Nathan struggled to contain his impatience. Davis nodded and picked up the phone. We have a number, but it may be outdated. He dialed, then frowned. It's disconnected. Nathan stood. We need to check the lighthouse. If there's even the slightest chance. Mr. Clark, Davis began, but Juan interrupted. The weather's clear today. I can show you the way on my boat. Davis looked at both men and sighed. I'll get clearance for a patrol boat. If there's a child out there, we're obligated to investigate. While the officer stepped out to arrange the trip, Nathan turned to Juan. Thank you for coming forward. Juan nodded. I hope this brings you good news, Mr. Clark. An hour later, Nathan, Juan, and 2 officers, Davis and Senior Officer Morgan, were aboard a patrol boat heading toward Black Rock Lighthouse. Nathan stared at the horizon, where the lighthouse's silhouette would soon appear. After 9 months of searching, could the answer really be so close, at an abandoned lighthouse? He tried to temper his hope, but his heart raced with every mile. The patrol boat approached Black Rock Lighthouse by noon. The lighthouse towered on a rocky outcrop in the middle of the ocean, its gray tower stark against the blue sky. Built in 1905, it had weathered countless storms, guiding sailors until it was decommissioned. As they drew closer, Nathan noticed a small, damaged boat pulled onto the rocks near the dock. Its hull was battered, but its presence suggested someone had been here. That boat wasn't here when I passed by this morning, Juan said quietly, pointing at it. Officer Morgan docked the boat at the concrete pier. Everyone stay alert. We don't know what we're dealing with. They stepped ashore, and Nathan held his breath as they approached the lighthouse's metal door. Officer Morgan knocked loudly. Police! Anyone inside? He called. Silence. After several unanswered knocks, Morgan tried the handle locked. The girl I saw was standing here on the dock, Juan said, pointing to the spot. She was waving at me. Morgan gave him a skeptical look. You're sure it wasn't a trick of the fog? Juan shook his head. I saw someone. Nathan walked to the edge of the dock, examining the damaged boat. It was small, about 12 feet, suitable for short trips, not long voyages. The damage suggested a storm or a collision with rocks. This boat could have been drifting for months, he said quietly. As they debated what to do next, the sound of an engine interrupted them. A modern boat appeared on the horizon, approaching from the mainland. Someone's coming, Officer Davis said, instinctively resting his hand on his holster. The boat slowed, and the man at the helm studied them carefully. He looked about 70, with tan skin and gray hair. He docked and cut the engine. What can I do for you, gentlemen? He asked, his voice calm but tinged with wariness. Officer Morgan flashed his badge. Coast Police. Are you William Grayson? The man raised his eyebrows slightly. Yes, that's me. This is my property. What brings the police here? We received a report of a child seen on this dock this morning, Morgan said. We're here to investigate. William let out a short laugh. A child? That explains your visit. I was here this morning with my granddaughter. We were picking up some old things I keep at the lighthouse. It was probably her. Nathan felt his hope deflate, but something in William's demeanor put him on edge. Your granddaughter? Officer Morgan asked. Could you show us a photo of her? William tensed. Why? I don't appreciate being accused of lying about my family. No accusations, Morgan said calmly. It's standard procedure when investigating reports about children. William reluctantly pulled out his phone, scrolled briefly, and showed a photo of a girl with short chestnut hair before pocketing it again. Satisfied? He asked coldly. Morgan turned to Juan. Could that have been the girl? Juan studied William carefully, then nodded slowly. Maybe. It was hard to tell in the fog, but she looked similar. Nathan felt his hope fade further. Mr. Clark, Morgan said quietly, I understand your disappointment, but the chances of your daughter being here after all these months. Nathan nodded, trying to process the new blow. William watched the exchange with an impassive expression. So that's what this is about? You thought my granddaughter was your missing daughter. His tone was sharp. I'm sorry for your loss, but I won't let you take my granddaughter. No one's taking anyone, Davis reassured him. We're just following up on a report. William relaxed slightly, but his gaze remained wary. Since we're here, Morgan said, do you mind if we take a look inside the lighthouse? Why? William asked sharply, his hands trembling slightly. To be thorough, Morgan replied. We've come all this way. William seemed ready to object but pulled out a set of keys. Fine, but just so you know, it's dusty and not exactly cozy. I only used the lighthouse for storage. As William unlocked the door, Nathan noticed his hands shaking. The door creaked open, revealing a modest interior lit by light filtering through salt-crusted windows. Inside was a small living area with basic furniture, a spiral staircase leading to the lantern room, and a door to the basement. Go ahead and look, William said curtly. But please don't touch my things. Juan opted to stay outside, feeling uneasy in the cramped space. Nathan, the two officers, and William stepped inside. The air smelled of dampness and neglect. Dust coated most surfaces, but some areas appeared recently disturbed. What's in the basement? Morgan asked, pointing to the door. Storage, William replied. Old equipment, furniture, personal items I have no place for. Can we take a look? Morgan asked. William's jaw tightened, but he unlocked the door. If you insist. A single dim bulb illuminated the basement. The space was cluttered with boxes, old furniture, fishing gear, and items covered with tarps. Nathan immediately noticed William positioning himself in front of an old cabinet against the far wall, as if guarding it. What's in the cabinet? Nathan asked. Personal items, William said dismissively. Family keepsakes. Nothing interesting. Officer Morgan scanned the room but saw nothing overtly suspicious. I think we're done here, Mr. Grayson. Thank you for your cooperation. As William stepped away from the cabinet, Nathan caught a glimpse of something familiar through the crack in its door. A cap, similar to the one Laura used to wear. His eyes darted to a corner where, under a tarp, stood two fishing rods. One adult-sized, one for a child. The color and design of the reel triggered a painful memory. Gentlemen, if you're finished, William said loudly, ushering them toward the exit. Nathan lingered. Those fishing rods, he said. They're exactly like the ones my wife and daughter had. William's face hardened. They're mine. They belong to me and my late daughter. Can we take a look? Morgan asked. I'd prefer you didn't, William snapped. They're sentimental. I don't even let my granddaughter touch them. Morgan nodded, respecting the request, but Nathan pressed on. And the cap in the cabinet. It looks like my wife's. Irritation flashed across William's face. Hold on. He returned to the basement and emerged with the cap and a fishing tackle box. I found this cap on the shore months ago. If it's your wife's, take it. Nathan's hands trembled as he took the cap. It was Laura's, with the small embroidery she'd done herself. And this tackle box, Nathan said, recognizing the brand. It's the same as Laura's. It's mine, William said too quickly. A common brand, popular among fishermen. It was my father's. They inspected the rest of the lighthouse, climbing to the lantern room, but found nothing remarkable. Stepping back into the daylight, Nathan clutched Laura's cap, grappling with conflicting emotions. relief at the find and growing suspicion toward William. "I hope this concludes your investigation," William said, locking the door. "For now," Morgan replied. "Thank you, Mr. Grayson." Before leaving, Officer Morgan asked one final question. "Mr. Grayson, we need a reliable way to contact you. Do you have a working phone number?" William's face darkened. "I don't use a phone anymore. I value my privacy." "Then your current address," Morgan pressed. William gestured toward the distant silhouette of Ridge Island. "I live there, on the southern shore. My granddaughter and I sometimes take in tourists who pay for help navigating the island." His tone was sharp, almost irritated. "I travel between Ridge, Fong, and Silvercliff for supplies, but otherwise, I keep to myself." "We may need to reach you again," Officer Davis added. "Then come to Ridge," William snapped. "But I'd prefer my privacy not be disturbed unless absolutely necessary." With that, William climbed into his boat and pulled away, leaving a foamy wake behind. But Nathan noticed he wasn't heading toward Ridge Island. He was steering toward the mainland. This heightened his unease. "That man is hiding something," Nathan said quietly, watching him go. "Let's not jump to conclusions," Morgan cautioned as they boarded the patrol boat. "But his behavior is certainly odd." Juan took the helm, guiding the boat back to Silvercliff. Nathan clutched Laura's cap, feeling it as tangible proof that she had been at the lighthouse. After a few minutes, he spoke up. "Those fishing rods in the basement, they're exactly like Laura's and Emily's. Same brand, same colors. Laura had a Coastal Elite model with blue trim and a chrome reel. It's not a cheap item. I gave it to her 4 years ago." Officer Davis jotted this down. "Could be a coincidence, Mr. Clark. That brand is popular among local fishermen." "And the cap," Nathan countered. "That's no coincidence." "True," Davis conceded. "It proves your wife was there or her belongings were. But Grayson claims he found the cap on the shore." Nathan shook his head. He was acting like he had something to hide. The way he stood in front of that cabinet. How nervous he got when I mentioned the rods. "We understand your frustration," Morgan said. "We'll look into Grayson when we get back. I promise." The rest of the journey passed in tense silence. At the harbor, the officers asked to take Laura's cap for analysis, promising to return it after logging it as evidence. Nathan reluctantly agreed, understanding the necessity. After the officers headed to the station, Nathan stayed on the pier with Juan. "I still don't trust that man," Nathan said, staring out at the sea. Juan hesitated. There was definitely something off about him, and the girl in his photo does look like the one I saw this morning. He paused. "But when I saw the girl on the dock, her hair was short, like the one he showed us. Your daughter always wore braids, right?" Nathan's heart skipped a beat. "Yes, Emily never cut her hair. Laura always braided it for her." "I'm sorry if I gave you false hope," Juan said. "No, you did the right thing," Nathan replied. "But you're not sure it was the same girl?" "I don't know," Juan admitted. "But it's strange that he said he lives on Ridge. I sail there every week, delivering supplies to the weather station. In 12 years, I've never seen him or a girl on the island. And none of the scientists have ever mentioned them." A chill ran through Nathan. "So he lied about where he lives." "Maybe," Juan said. "Or he's so reclusive we just never crossed paths. Ridge isn't a small island." He thought for a moment. "I have another run tomorrow morning. I can ask around at the station, see if anyone knows this Grayson." "Please do," Nathan said, and they exchanged phone numbers. "I've got to go," Juan said, glancing at his watch. "My wife's probably worried, but I'll call you tomorrow after the run." "Thank you for everything," Nathan said, shaking his hand firmly. After Juan left, Nathan returned to his truck and sat behind the wheel, replaying the visit to the lighthouse in his mind. The cap, the fishing rods, William's odd behavior. It didn't add up to a simple story about a storm. But the thought that Laura and Emily might have survived and ended up in this man's hands felt both impossible and terrifying. Nathan started driving home, but the memory of the fishing rods and tackle box he'd seen at the lighthouse gnawed at him. He was certain they belonged to Laura and Emily. On impulse, he turned his truck toward downtown Silvercliff, heading for the Sea Anchor Tavern, the town's oldest establishment, where fishermen gathered. If anyone knew about William Grayson, it would be the tavern's regulars. The Sea Anchor was housed in an old building that had withstood storms for over a century. Inside, wooden walls and nautical decor created a cozy atmosphere. At this hour, the tavern was nearly empty, with only a few elderly fishermen seated at tables. Nathan took a stool at the bar and ordered a beer from the bartender, Rick, who had run the place for 2 decades. While Rick poured the beer, Nathan pulled out his phone and searched for information on the fishing rod and tackle box. The rod was a premium model from a well-known manufacturer, not something casual hobbyists would buy. When Rick returned, Nathan asked, "Ever heard of a guy named William Grayson?" Rick raised an eyebrow. "Grayson? Haven't heard that name in a while. Odd fellow, always kept to himself. Why re you asking about him?" "Ran into him at Black Rock Lighthouse today," Nathan said. Rick nodded. "That's his place. Bought the lighthouse years ago. Word is, he was some kind of engineer, made a fortune, and decided to become a hermit." He lowered his voice. "But there are rumors about him." "What kind of rumors?" Nathan tried to sound casual, though his insides churned. "You know how it is in small towns. People talk," Rick said, glancing around the tavern. "Some say he's not right in the head. Lives alone at the lighthouse or on his boat for months at a time. I heard he's been building something on Fong Island recently." "Fong Island?" Nathan sat up straighter. "He told the police he lives on Ridge." Rick snorted skeptically. "Ridge? Doubtful. The scientists at the weather station would have mentioned if someone was living there with a kid." "A kid?" Nathan asked sharply. "His granddaughter, supposedly," Rick shrugged. "But it's all hearsay. Grayson rarely shows up in town." Nathan took a sip of his beer, processing this. "Where does he keep his boat when he comes to Silvercliff?" Rick thought for a moment. "Word is, he's got some kind of houseboat in one of the bays beyond the harbor, tucked away among the reeds and trees. Not many people go out that way." Nathan finished his beer, left a tip, and stood. "Thanks, Rick. That helps." "Good luck," Rick called after him. Outside, Nathan immediately called Juan. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Nathan, everything okay?" "I need your help again," Nathan said. "Can you meet me at the harbor in half an hour?" "Sure. But what's going on?" Juan asked. "I'll explain when you get here. It's about Grayson." Nathan drove to the harbor, feeling a newfound resolve. If Rick was right, Grayson had lied about where he lived. Why, if not to hide something? When Juan arrived, Nathan recounted the conversation at the tavern. "So he doesn't live on Ridge?" Juan shook his head. "I knew something was off. I've never seen him there." "I want to find his houseboat," Nathan said. "Rick said it's in the bays beyond the harbor." Juan looked uneasy. "That's a maze of channels. Some are barely navigable. What are you hoping to find?" "I don't know," Nathan admitted. But he lied. He had Laura's cap, and I'm almost certain those fishing rods were theirs. I need to know what he's hiding. "Maybe we should tell the police?" Juan suggested. "And say what? That the bartender heard rumors? They need more evidence. And I want to see this girl myself. If it's his granddaughter, then—" Nathan trailed off, unable to finish. Juan nodded. "All right, my boat's better suited for the shallow channels. Let's take it." They climbed aboard Juan's fishing boat, a sturdy, reliable vessel. The sun was dipping toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the water. The harbor buzzed with returning fishermen, but as they entered the network of bays, the noise faded. The channels were narrow, lined with reeds and mangrove trees that created a tunnel-like effect. "Not many people come out here," Juan said, deftly navigating. "Too shallow. And there's not much to see unless you're into birds or plants." "Perfect place to hide," Nathan muttered. They ventured deeper into the channels, the sounds of the harbor dissolving behind them. Only the hum of the engine and the calls of birds broke the silence. "How far do these channels go?" Nathan asked after 20 minutes. All the way to the other side of the peninsula, Juan replied. There's an abandoned military base out there, all overgrown. It's been off-limits for years. As they rounded another bend, Juan suddenly slowed the boat. Look, he whispered, pointing ahead. In a secluded cove where the channel widened slightly, nestled among rocks and foliage, stood an unusual structure. It was an old boat about 50 feet long, with a superstructure resembling a cabin. The boat was moored to a crude dock adjacent to a rocky shore. On the shore, among sparse trees, stood a small cabin. That's it, Nathan breathed. Juan carefully maneuvered the boat into a hidden spot where they could observe without being seen. What now? He asked. We watch, Nathan said. And we wait. They didn't have to wait long. After about 10 minutes of watching from their hidden vantage point, movement caught Nathan's eye. A figure emerged from the small cabin atop the rocky outcrop. It was William Grayson, unmistakable even from a distance. That's him, Nathan whispered, though the confirmation was unnecessary. Juan handed Nathan a pair of binoculars. Keep watching. Through the lenses, Nathan saw William descend a rough path from the cabin to the floating house on the old boat. He disappeared inside briefly, then re-emerged and climbed back to the cabin. When he exited the cabin again, Nathan's breath caught. William was carrying something or someone over his shoulder, a small figure with chestnut hair. My God! Nathan gasped. He's carrying a child. The figure appeared limp, unmoving. From this distance, details were hard to discern, but it was clearly a young girl, no older than 9 or 10. Is she moving? Juan asked, his voice tight with anxiety. I can't tell, Nathan replied. She looks unconscious. But a man wouldn't drug his own granddaughter, would he? They watched in horrified silence as William carefully navigated the path back to the floating house, carrying the girl. He disappeared inside, then returned to the cabin. Nathan grabbed his phone. I'm calling the police. Whether that's his granddaughter, my Emily, or someone else, something's wrong here. His hands shook as he dialed the Silvercliff police station. When the dispatcher answered, Nathan identified himself and quickly explained what they were seeing. We need officers here now, he urged, describing their location as best he could. I think William Grayson has abducted a child, possibly my daughter. Stay on the line, Mr. Clark, the dispatcher instructed. Units are being dispatched. While keeping the dispatcher on the line, Nathan continued watching through the binoculars. William emerged from the cabin again, this time struggling with a large, heavy sack over his shoulder. As he descended the steep path, he stumbled briefly, and the sack slipped, tumbling to the base of the path. Nathan zoomed in, and what he saw froze his blood. From the open end of the sack, a woman's head was partially visible, chestnut hair spilling onto the ground. There's a woman, Nathan reported to the dispatcher, his voice trembling. In a sack. I think. He couldn't finish. William quickly recovered, gathered the sack, and carried it into the floating house. He returned to the cabin once more. How long until the police get here? Juan asked, tension radiating from him. They're on their way, Nathan said, still holding the phone. But I don't know how fast they can navigate these channels. On his third trip, William carried 2 large insulated boxes, the kind used for transporting fish or perishables. He loaded them onto the floating house and began preparing the boat, clearly planning to leave. He's getting ready to go, Nathan told the dispatcher urgently. We need to act now. Police and marine units are en route, the dispatcher assured him. Do not approach the suspect. He may be armed and dangerous. Nathan relayed this to Juan, who nodded grimly. We should pull back. Find a spot where we can still watch but won't be seen if he heads this way. As they began to maneuver their boat deeper into the cover of overhanging mangroves, a branch snapped under Juan's foot, the sound cutting through the quiet channel like a gunshot. William's head jerked up, his eyes scanning the source of the noise. He reached into his jacket, pulling out what looked like a pistol, and peered in their direction. He's armed, Nathan whispered into the phone. And I think he's spotted us. Move back immediately, the dispatcher ordered. Get to safety. Juan had already eased their boat further into the vegetation, but William had clearly sensed their presence. "I know you're there." His voice echoed across the water, unnaturally loud in the still air. "Show yourselves." Nathan and Juan froze, barely breathing. A shot rang out, the bullet hitting the water several yards away, a warning shot not aimed directly at them. "Come out now," William shouted. "What do we do?" Juan whispered, panic creeping into his voice. "Stay hidden," Nathan replied softly. "Help's coming." As if on cue, the distant hum of boat engines and the thrum of a helicopter approached. William's head snapped toward the sound, his expression shifting from anger to calculation. "Should we try to block his exit?" Juan asked, glancing at the channel leading back to the harbor. "The dispatcher said not to engage," Nathan said, though every instinct urged him to confront William, to demand answers, to know if the child was Emily. Their choice was made for them as multiple police boats appeared at the channel's mouth, lights flashing. A police helicopter swooped into position overhead, its spotlight bathing the scene in stark white light. "William Grayson!" boomed a voice from one of the police boats, amplified through a megaphone. "This is the Silvercliff police. Drop your weapon and surrender immediately." For a moment, William stood frozen in the spotlight, pistol still in hand, his face twisted with rage and desperation. The helicopter's rotors roared, the sound reverberating off the water and rocks. "Drop the weapon now," the command repeated. "You are surrounded." Slowly, deliberately, William lowered the pistol and let it fall onto the dock. He raised his hands, his expression not one of surrender but of cold calculation. Nathan watched as two police boats closed in, officers with drawn weapons moving swiftly to handcuff William and read him his rights. As they did, William's gaze swept the channel, somehow locking onto Nathan's despite the distance and cover. The raw malice in his eyes sent a shiver through Nathan. Then, chillingly, William began to laugh, a hollow, eerie sound that cut through the helicopter's noise. As one police boat took William away, another approached Nathan and Juan's hiding spot. "Mr. Clark, Mr. Martinez," an officer called. "It's safe to come out." They guided their boat into the open channel, where officers directed them to tie up near William's floating house. More police boats and emergency medical personnel had arrived. "Is it her? Is it Emily?" Nathan asked desperately as they secured the boat. "We're still assessing, sir," an officer replied. "Please stay here for now." Nathan watched in agonizing suspense as officers and medics entered the floating house. Minutes dragged like hours. Finally, a medic emerged, carrying a small figure wrapped in an emergency blanket. Even from a distance, Nathan recognized the chestnut hair. "Emily!" he cried, lunging forward, only to be restrained by an officer. "Sir, let the medics work," the officer said firmly. The girl was quickly transferred to a medical boat, but not before Nathan glimpsed her face. Pale, eyes unfocused, but unmistakably his daughter. "That's her," he choked out. "That's Emily." Juan nodded. "That's the girl I saw this morning at the lighthouse. I'm sure now." The officer spoke into his radio, confirming the identification. "We'll get you to the hospital soon, Mr. Clark, but we need you to stay here while we secure the scene." Nathan's attention shifted to a grim procession. Officers carried a body bag from the floating house to another boat. He didn't need to ask who it was. The devastating certainty hit him. "Laura," he whispered, grief crashing over him. Despite months of searching, despite the official presumption of death, a part of him had clung to the hope that she might still be alive. As the body bag was loaded, an officer approached. "I'm sorry, sir. We'll need formal identification, but based on your description and the circumstances," he trailed off. Nathan nodded numbly. "I understand." "There's more," the officer said, his voice heavy. "You need to brace yourself. What we found regarding your wife, it's deeply disturbing." "What do you mean?" Nathan asked, dread tightening his chest. "My wife was." The officer unzipped the body bag just enough for Nathan to see inside. Nathan gasped, horror rising like bile. He had prepared to see Laura's face, But what he saw was far worse. Her body had been grotesquely altered, dismembered in a way that defied comprehension. Nathan dropped to his knees, tears streaming as rage and anguish consumed him. His chest tightened, breath coming in shallow gasps. The sight was unbearable, yet he couldn't look away. His fists clenched, trembling with the urge to scream, to destroy something, to make sense of the nightmare before him. Before Nathan could process further, shouts came from the floating house. Officers emerged carrying the 2 insulated boxes Nathan had seen William load. A fresh wave of dread hit him. "What's in those?" One asked, his voice shaky. "Evidence," the officer said grimly. "Highly disturbing evidence, sir. That's all I can say now." More officers descended from the cabin on the hill, carrying evidence bags. One held what looked like a notebook, another the fishing tackle box Nathan had recognized at the lighthouse. His stomach churned at the sight, his mind racing with terrifying possibilities. What could be in that box? Could it be worse than what he'd already seen? "We know this is overwhelming, sir," the officer said. "But we need to take you and Mr. Martinez back to the station. A boat is ready." "I can't," Nathan said, his voice breaking. "I need to be with Emily. She needs me." "The medical team is taking her to Silvercliff General Hospital," the officer explained. "They're equipped to handle her condition. You'll be reunited with her as soon as possible, but she needs immediate care. We also need your statement while the details are fresh." Reluctantly, Nathan agreed. As they were escorted to a police boat, he looked back at William's strange dwelling, the tethered boat, the hidden cabin. What horrors had Laura and Emily endured there? The boat ride back to Silvercliff was a blur of shock and grief. Emily was alive, a miracle he hadn't dared hope for, but Laura was gone in the most horrific way. The officers' grim faces hinted at even darker revelations to come. Part 4. The Truth Unraveled. At the Silvercliff police station, Nathan and Juan were separated to give their statements. Nathan took a moment to steady himself before recounting every detail. Juan's sighting at the lighthouse, the trip to Blackstone Lighthouse, William's odd behavior, and their discovery of the floating house. He described the koi cap, the fishing rods, and every interaction with William, ensuring no detail was overlooked. "What I don't understand," Nathan said after finishing, "is why. Why take them? Why keep Emily alive?" His voice faltered, unable to voice the rest. The detective, a woman named Torres, closed her notebook and leaned forward, her expression grave. "Mr. Clark, we've been processing evidence from the floating house and cabin. I need to prepare you. What we found is deeply disturbing." Nathan braced himself. "Tell me everything," Torres began, her tone measured but compassionate. The insulated boxes William was loading contained preserved human remains, body parts from multiple victims, meticulously cleaned and stored in glass containers. Each was labeled with names and dates. The fishing tackle box held tools he used for his procedures. "As you saw with your wife's remains, William hadn't yet." She paused, the horror too great to articulate. Nathan felt sick, his mind reeling. "My God! There were also resin blocks, like decorative pieces," Torres continued. "They encased personal items, fabric, jewelry, hair. One contained what appears to be your daughter's hair, cut from her braids." Nathan's fists clenched, knuckles white with rage and horror. "He kept trophies." "Not trophies," Torres corrected. "His journals suggest he saw them as tributes, preservations. He was obsessed with halting time, with preserving what he called perfect family units forever." "You found journals?" Nathan asked, struggling to process. "Yes, and a photo album in the cabin," Torres said. The album contained staged photos of William with his victims, posed as a family. He dressed them, arranged them, and photographed them as if they were his own kin. "Why would he do this?" Nathan's voice shook. "Was it?" "Not sexual," Torres said, anticipating his fear. His fixation was on preservation, on saving mother-daughter pairs from what he called the decay of time. His journals are filled with this philosophy. "Who is this man?" Nathan demanded. Torres consulted her notes. William Grayson was a marine architect, specializing in coastal defenses. About 18 years ago, his wife and daughter died in a boating accident involving a pier he'd designed. The guilt shattered him. He withdrew, using a settlement to buy the lighthouse and isolate himself. So this was about replacing his family? Nathan asked. Not replacing, Torres clarified. Our forensic psychiatrist believes Grayson developed a delusion of eternal preservation. He thought he was saving these pairs, reconstructing what he'd lost by keeping them safe from time. In his mind, he wasn't harming them. He was honoring them. That's insane, Juan said, having joined them after his statement. Torres nodded. He blamed himself for his family's death. This was his warped attempt to atone, to protect others from similar fates. His journals describe women as both nurturing and chaotic, blaming their fragility for his loss. And Laura and Emily? Nathan asked, his voice barely audible. Torres reviewed her notes. His journal details what happened. 9 months ago, Laura and Emily's boat was caught in the storm and began to sink near the lighthouse. William saw them and helped them dock, offering shelter and promising to call for help once the storm passed. But he never did, Nathan said, the pieces falling into place. No, Torres confirmed. Laura grew suspicious when he didn't use the radio. When she confronted him, he became aggressive, restraining them in the lighthouse. He kept them there while he built his floating house and cabin on Fong Island, planning to move them there. He was relocating, Nathan realized. Yes, Torres said. He wrote that Silvercliff was becoming too risky, too many people, too much gossip. The lighthouse was too exposed, and he feared being noticed, which happened when Mr. Martinez saw Emily this morning. So when Juan saw her, Nathan prompted. William had returned to retrieve final items, Torres explained. Emily was sedated but managed to reach the dock while he was distracted. That's when Mr. Martinez saw her. If I'd stopped, Juan said, his voice heavy with guilt. You couldn't have known, Torres reassured him. Your report led us to her. And Laura? Nathan forced himself to ask. When did he? Torres's expression darkened. Based on the condition of her remains, the medical examiner believes she was killed today, likely just hours before we arrived. William may have realized he couldn't move her alive without risk after Emily was spotted. Nathan closed his eyes, devastated. Laura had survived all those months, enduring unimaginable horrors, only to be killed when rescue was so close. How many others? He asked after a moment. We've identified remains from at least 4 other mother-daughter pairs who vanished from coastal towns within a 150-mile radius over the past 12 years, Torres said. We're notifying their families. At least they'll have closure, even if it's not what they hoped. What happens to him now? Nathan asked, his tone hardening. William Grayson will face multiple charges: kidnapping, murder, and more. His attorney may push for an insanity defense, but his crimes were methodical, planned. I doubt it'll hold. He'll spend his life in prison or a secure facility. Nathan nodded, finding faint comfort in that. I need to see Emily now. Can someone take me to the hospital? Of course, Torres said. An officer is ready to drive you. We'll need to speak again later, but your daughter comes first. As Nathan stood, he turned to Juan. Thank you. If you hadn't seen her this morning, go to your daughter, Juan said simply. That's what matters. In the small coastal town of Silvercliff, nestled on the rugged northwest shore, the sea was both lifeblood and betrayer. The crash of waves against jagged rocks and the cries of gulls formed the rhythm of daily life. But for Nathan Clark, those sounds had become a haunting reminder of what the sea had stolen. 9 months had passed since his wife, Laura, and their 8-year-old daughter, Emily, set out on a fishing trip in their small boat. Fishing was their shared passion. Laura, a skilled angler, taught Emily the art of casting a line. Nathan remembered their last moments on the weathered wooden pier in Silvercliff's harbor. Emily, her chestnut braids bouncing, waved her new fishing rod, a birthday gift. Daddy, you sure you can't come? she'd asked, pouting. Nathan had smiled, adjusting her cap with an embroidered crab. I've got to help old man Jackson with his boat, sweetheart. But you and Mommy will have fun. She'll show you that spot where she caught that huge bass last year. Laura, checking their gear, had winked at him. Don't worry, we'll bring back dinner. Nathan waved as their boat pulled away. The forecast mentioned a chance of evening rain, nothing serious. But within hours, the sky darkened, and a storm, unprecedented even for Silvercliff's seasoned sailors, roared in. Now Nathan stood on that same pier, the wind tugging at his jacket. He came here daily, as if his presence could summon Laura and Emily back. The search had been exhaustive. Coast Guard, local fishermen, volunteers, weeks of scouring the waters. For days after the storm, debris from their boat washed ashore, along with Laura's rucksack, Emily's crab-stitched cap, and a water bottle with Emily's name and marker. Authorities concluded the boat had capsized, and Laura and Emily were lost. But Nathan couldn't accept it. He organized additional searches, focusing on Fong Island, a wooded, uninhabited speck 12 miles offshore. Local teens sometimes partied there, but it was mostly untouched. If Laura and Emily had reached shore, Fong Island was the likeliest spot. Yet nothing was found, not there, nor on other nearby islets. The official search ended, but Nathan persisted. Every weekend, weather permitting, he took his boat out, diving in new areas, expanding his search, clinging to hope. That morning, Nathan prepared his boat as usual. Diving gear was packed, maps marked. He knew the townsfolk whispered he was in denial, that he needed to move on. But how could he, without answers? His phone rang, displaying the Silvercliff police. His heart raced. Mr. Clark, this is Officer Davis, the voice said. You need to come to the station immediately. We have developments in your family's case. What developments? Nathan gripped the phone. A fisherman reported a sighting that may involve your daughter. It's best we discuss in person. I'm at the harbor about to head out, Nathan said, his voice trembling. We'll wait. The fisherman's here. Nathan unloaded his gear, changed out of his wetsuit, and drove to the Silvercliff police station. False leads had crushed him before, but he couldn't ignore this. The station, a small office staffed by a handful of officers handling everything from petty theft to boating violations, was quiet. Officer Davis met him at the entrance. Thanks for coming so quickly, Mr. Clark. What's going on? Nathan couldn't wait. This way. Davis led him to a meeting room where another officer sat with a man Nathan recognized, a fisherman he'd seen around the harbor. Mr. Clark, this is Juan Martinez. He came in with information that might relate to your family. Juan stood, offering a weathered hand. Wish we were meeting under better circumstances. What did you see? Nathan asked, studying him. Juan shifted uncomfortably. This morning, I was heading to Crest Island. I deliver supplies to the weather station there weekly. Nathan nodded, familiar with the remote outpost. On my return, I cut through the old channel near the decommissioned Blackstone Lighthouse to save time. He paused, choosing his words. It was foggy, visibility poor, but as I passed the lighthouse, I thought I saw a girl on the dock, 8 or 9 years old. She was waving at me. Nathan's pulse pounded. A girl? You're sure? It was hard to tell in the fog, but something felt familiar, Juan continued. When I got back to the harbor and saw one of your missing persons flyers, with your daughter's picture, it hit me. She looked like her. Officer Davis interjected. Mr. Martinez wasn't certain, so he came to us instead of contacting you directly. Is the lighthouse operational? Nathan asked. No, it was decommissioned years ago and sold privately, Davis said, checking notes. Purchased by William Grayson about 20 years ago, for historical preservation. Do you have his contact? Nathan pressed, urgency rising. Davis nodded, reaching for a phone. We have a number, but it might be outdated. He dialed, then frowned. No dial tone. It's disconnected. Nathan stood. We need to check the lighthouse. If there's any chance. Mr. Clark, Davis began, but Juan cut in. The weather's clear today. I can guide a boat there. Davis sighed, looking between them. I'll get authorization for a patrol boat. If a child's there, we need to investigate. As Davis left to arrange the trip, Nathan turned to Juan. Thank you for coming forward. Juan nodded. I hope this leads to something good, Mr. Clark. Within an hour, Nathan, Juan, and 2 officers, Davis and Senior Officer Morgan, were on a patrol boat heading for Blackstone Lighthouse. Nathan stared at the horizon, where the lighthouse's silhouette would soon appear. After 9 months, could the answer lie in an abandoned beacon? He tried to temper his hope, but his heart raced with every mile. The patrol boat neared Blackstone Lighthouse by noon. The gray tower rose starkly from a rocky outcrop, a sentinel against the blue sky. Built in 1905, it had weathered countless storms before being decommissioned. As they approached, Nathan spotted a damaged boat pulled onto the rocks near the dock. Its hull was shattered, but its presence suggested someone had been here. That wasn't there this morning, Juan murmured, pointing. Officer Morgan docked the boat at the concrete pier. Everyone stay alert. We don't know what we're walking into. They disembarked, Nathan holding his breath as they neared the lighthouse's metal door. Morgan knocked firmly. Police! Anyone inside? He called. Silence. After several tries, Morgan tested the handle, locked. The girl I saw was on this dock, Juan said, pointing. Waving, right here? Morgan looked skeptical. Sure it wasn't the fog playing tricks? Juan shook his head. I saw someone. Nathan walked to the dock's edge, examining the wrecked boat. About 12 feet long, it was suited for day trips, not offshore ventures. Its damage suggested a storm or rocks. This could have drifted for months, he said quietly. As they debated next steps, an engine's hum grew louder. A modern boat approached from the mainland. Someone's coming, Officer Davis said, hand on his holster. The boat slowed, its pilot, a man in his 70s with tan skin and white hair, studying them. He docked and cut the engine. Can I help you, gentlemen? He called, his voice steady but wary. Officer Morgan showed his badge. Coastal Police. Are you William Grayson? The man raised an eyebrow. I am. This is my property. What brings you here? We received a report of a child seen on this dock this morning, Morgan said. We're investigating. William gave a short laugh. A child? That explains the visit. I was here with my granddaughter, collecting old belongings I store here. Must have been her. Nathan's hope wavered, but something in William's demeanor kept him on edge. Your granddaughter? Morgan asked. Mind showing us a photo? William stiffened. What for? I don't appreciate being called a liar about my family. No accusation, Morgan said smoothly. Just procedure for child-related reports. William reluctantly pulled out his phone, swiped, and briefly showed a photo of a girl with short chestnut hair before pocketing it. Satisfied? He asked coldly. Morgan turned to Juan. Could that be her? Juan studied William, then nodded slowly. Possibly. It was foggy, but she looked similar. Nathan stepped forward. You sure? You said she resembled my daughter from the flyer. I wasn't certain, Juan said, uneasy. The girl in the photo looks like what I saw, a girl in a red jacket, same age. Details were blurry in the fog. Nathan's hope dimmed further. Mr. Clark, Morgan said gently. I know this is hard, but the odds of your daughter being here after all this time. Nathan nodded, grappling with disappointment. William watched, his expression flat. So that's it? You thought my granddaughter was your missing daughter. His tone was sharp. I'm sorry for your loss, but you're not taking my granddaughter. No one's taking anyone, Davis assured. We're just following up. William relaxed slightly, but his eyes remained guarded. Since we're here, Morgan said. Mind if we look inside the lighthouse? Why? William snapped, his hands trembling faintly. To be thorough, Morgan replied. We've come this far. William hesitated, then pulled out keys. Fine, but it's dusty and unpleasant. I only use it for storage. As he unlocked the door, Nathan noticed his hands shaking. The door creaked open, revealing a sparse interior lit by salt-crusted windows. A small living area, a spiral staircase to the lantern room, and a basement door comprised the layout. "Look around," William said curtly. "But don't touch my things." Juan opted to stay outside, uneasy in the cramped space. Nathan, the officers, and William entered. The air smelled of damp and neglect. Dust-coated surfaces, though some areas seemed recently disturbed. "What's in the basement?" Morgan asked, eyeing the door. "Storage," William said. "Old equipment, furniture, personal items I don't have space for." "Can we see?" Morgan pressed. William's jaw tightened, but he unlocked the door. "If you insist." A single bulb lit the basement, revealing a cluttered space with boxes, fishing gear, furniture, and tarped items. Nathan noticed William position himself in front of an old cabinet, as if guarding it. "What's in there?" Nathan asked. "Personal belongings," William dismissed. "Family keepsakes. Nothing of interest." Morgan scanned the room but found nothing suspicious. "We're done, Mr. Grayson." "Thank you." As William stepped away from the cabinet, Nathan glimpsed a familiar koi-patterned cap through a cracked door. His eyes darted to a corner, where 2 fishing rods, one adult, one child-sized, leaned under a tarp. The reel's design sparked painful recognition. "Gentlemen, if you're finished," William said loudly, urging them out. Nathan lingered. "Those rods," he said, voice tight. "They're exactly like my wife's and daughter's." William's face hardened. "They're mine, from my late daughter." "Can we see them?" Morgan asked. "I'd rather you didn't," William said flatly. "They're cherished, from my deceased daughter. I don't even let my granddaughter touch them." Morgan nodded, respecting the boundary, but Nathan pressed. "And the cap in the cabinet? It's like my wife's." A flicker of irritation crossed William's face. "Wait here." He returned from the basement with the koi cap and a fishing tackle box. "Found this cap on the shore months ago. If it's your wife's, take it." Nathan's hands trembled as he took the cap, Laura's, with her unique stitching. "And this box," he said, recognizing the brand. "It's the same as hers." "It's mine," William said too quickly. "A common brand, good quality. Been in my family for years." They inspected the rest of the lighthouse, climbing to the lantern room, but found nothing else. Outside, Nathan clutched Laura's cap, torn between vindication and suspicion of William. "I trust that's all," William said, locking the door. "For now," Morgan replied. "Thank you, Mr. Grayson." Before leaving, Morgan asked, "Mr. Grayson, we need a reliable contact. A current phone number." William's expression soured. "I don't use one. I value privacy." "Then an address," Morgan pressed. William pointed to Crest Island's distant silhouette. "I live there, South Shore. My granddaughter and I sometimes guide tourists for pay." His tone was clipped. "I sail between Crest, Fong, and Silvercliff for supplies, but otherwise keep to myself." "We may need to follow up," Davis added. "Then come to Crest," William said curtly. "But I'd appreciate no unnecessary disturbances." William departed in his boat, heading not toward Crest but the mainland. Nathan watched, unease growing. "He's hiding something," he said quietly. "Let's not jump to conclusions," Morgan cautioned as they boarded the patrol boat. But his behavior was odd. Juan steered them back to Silvercliff. Nathan held Laura's cap, a tangible link to her presence at the lighthouse. "Those rods," he said after a while. "They match Laura's and Emily's exactly." Laura's was a coastal elite, blue trim chrome reel. "Not cheap. I got it for her birthday 4 years ago." Davis noted it. "Could be coincidence, Mr. Clark. That brand's popular here." "And the cap," Nathan countered. "That's no coincidence." "True," Davis agreed. "It proves your wife or her belongings were there. But Grayson claims he found it on the shore." Nathan shook his head. "He was hiding something. Standing in front of that cabinet, nervous about the rods." "We'll look into Grayson," Morgan promised.
Y assure you.
The journey back was tense and silent. At the harbor, The officers took Laura's cap for evidence, promising to return it. Nathan reluctantly handed it over. As the officers left for the station, Nathan and Juan stood on the pier. "I don't trust him," Nathan said, staring at the sea. Juan hesitated. "Something's off. The girl in his photo looked like the one I saw, but your daughter had braids, right? The girl this morning had short hair, like in his photo." Nathan's heart skipped. Emily always had braids. Laura wouldn't let her cut them. "Sorry if I got your hopes up," Juan said. "No, you did the right thing," Nathan said. "But you're not sure it was the same girl?" "I don't know," Juan admitted. "What's odd is him saying he lives on Crest. I've sailed there weekly for 12 years, delivering to the weather station. I've never seen him or a girl, and the researchers never mentioned them." "So he lied," Nathan said, a chill running through him. "Maybe," Juan said. "Or he's so reclusive our paths never crossed. Crest isn't small." He paused. "I'm heading there tomorrow. I can ask around, see if anyone knows Grayson." "Would you?" Nathan said, exchanging numbers. "I'd appreciate it." "I should go," Juan said, checking the time. "My wife's wondering where I am. I'll call tomorrow." "Thank you," Nathan said, shaking his hand firmly. After Juan left, Nathan returned to his car, replaying the lighthouse visit. The cap, the rods, William's behavior, none of it aligned with a simple storm tragedy. Yet the alternative, that Laura and Emily had survived, only to be held by this man, was both hopeful and horrifying. Nathan meant to drive home, but the rods haunted him. He was certain they were Laura's and Emily's. On impulse, he turned toward Silvercliff's waterfront, to the Sea Anchor, the town's oldest tavern, a hub for fishermen. If anyone knew William Grayson, it was the regulars there. The Sea Anchor, housed in a storm-battered building, exuded timeless warmth with its wood paneling and nautical decor. At this hour, a few weathered fishermen sat at tables. Nathan took a barstool and ordered a beer from Rick, the bartender who'd run the place for decades. While waiting, Nathan searched his phone for details on the rod and tackle box. The rod was a high-end coastal elite, not a casual purchase. When Rick returned, Nathan asked, "Ever heard of William Grayson?" Rick raised an eyebrow. "Grayson? Haven't heard that name in a while." Odd guy kept to himself. "Why?" "Met him today at Blackstone Lighthouse," Nathan said. Rick nodded. "He owns it. Bought it years ago. Was an engineer, made money, decided to play hermit." He lowered his voice. "There's talk, though." "What kind?" Nathan asked, feigning casualness. "Small-town gossip," Rick said, glancing around. "Some say he's unhinged. Spends weeks alone at the lighthouse or on his boat. Heard he's been building something on Fong Island." "Fong?" Nathan sat up. "He told the police he lives on Crest." Rick snorted. "Crest? Doubt it. The weather station folks would have mentioned a guy and a kid living there." "Kid?" Nathan asked sharply. "His granddaughter, supposedly." Rick shrugged. "It's all hearsay. He rarely shows up here." Nathan sipped his beer, processing. Where would he keep his boat in Silvercliff? Rick thought. Heard he's got a floating house in the inlet channels off the harbor, tucked behind reeds and trees. Not many go there. Nathan finished his beer, left a generous tip, and stood. "Thanks, Rick. Hope you find what you need," Rick called. Outside, Nathan called Juan. "Nathan, you okay?" Juan answered. "I need your help again," Nathan said. "Meet me at the harbor in 30 minutes? "Yeah. But what's up?" Juan asked. "I'll explain there. It's about Grayson." Nathan drove to the harbor, urgency driving him. If Rick was right, Grayson lied about his home. Why, unless he was hiding something? When Juan arrived, Nathan shared the tavern conversation. "So he doesn't live on Crest?" Juan said. "I knew something was off. I've never seen him there." "I want to find his floating house," Nathan said. Rick said it's in the inlet channels. Juan looked wary. "That's a maze. Some channels are barely navigable. What do you expect to find?" "I don't know," Nathan admitted. But he lied. He had Laura's cap and those rods are theirs. I need to know what else he's hiding. Shouldn't we tell the police? Juan suggested. And say what? A bartender heard rumors? They'll need more. I just want to see the girl. If she's his granddaughter, then... Nathan trailed off. Juan nodded. My boat's better for shallow channels. Let's take it. They boarded Juan's sturdy fishing boat. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows as they left the busy harbor. In the inlet channels, the noise faded, replaced by the purr of the engine and bird calls. Narrow waterways, lined with reeds and mangroves, created a tunnel-like effect. Not many come here, Juan said, navigating expertly. Too shallow, unless you're into birds or plants. Perfect place to hide, Nathan muttered. They ventured deeper, the harbor's sounds gone. How far do these channels go? Nathan asked after 20 minutes. To the peninsula's other side, Juan said. There's an abandoned military base, overgrown, off-limits for years. Rounding a bend, Juan slowed the engine. Look, he whispered, pointing. In a secluded cove, partially hidden by rocks and vegetation, sat a strange structure, a 50-foot boat with a cabin-like addition, moored to a crude dock by a rocky shore. A small cabin perched among scraggly trees atop the rocks. That's it, Nathan breathed. Juan maneuvered their boat into cover, keeping watch. Now what? We watch, Nathan said. And wait. They didn't wait long. 10 minutes later, William Grayson emerged from the cabin. That's him, Nathan whispered. Juan handed Nathan binoculars. Keep watching. William descended to the floating house, entered briefly, and returned to the cabin. When he emerged again, he carried a small, limp figure with chestnut hair over his shoulder. My God! Nathan gasped. He's carrying a child. The girl, no older than 10, appeared unconscious. Is she moving? Juan asked. I can't tell, Nathan said. She looks out cold. He wouldn't drug his granddaughter, would he? They watched as William carried her into the floating house, then returned to the cabin. Nathan dialed the police, explaining urgently. We need officers here now, he said, giving their location. I think William Grayson has abducted a child, possibly my daughter. Stay on the line, the dispatcher said. Units are coming. Nathan kept watching. William reappeared, struggling with a heavy sack. He stumbled, and the sack fell, revealing a woman's head and chestnut hair. There's a woman, Nathan told the dispatcher, voice shaking. In a sack. William retrieved the sack and entered the floating house. How long until police? Juan asked. They're coming, Nathan said, clutching the phone. William returned with 2 insulated boxes, loading them onto the boat, preparing to leave. He's about to go, Nathan reported. We need help now. Do not approach, the dispatcher warned. He may be armed. Nathan relayed this to Juan. We should pull back, stay hidden. As they moved deeper into cover, a branch snapped. William's head whipped up, and he drew a pistol, scanning. He's armed, Nathan whispered. He's seen us. Get to safety, the dispatcher ordered. I know you're there, William shouted. Show yourselves. A shot hit the water yards away, a warning. Come out, William yelled. Stay hidden, Nathan whispered to Juan. Police boats and a helicopter approached. William Grayson, a megaphone blared. Drop your weapon and surrender. William froze in the helicopter spotlight, then slowly dropped the pistol, raising his hands. His face was cold, calculating. Officers cuffed him, and his gaze found Nathan's, brimming with hatred. Then he laughed, a chilling sound. As William was taken away, an officer called, Mr. Clark, Mr. Martinez. It's safe. They docked near the floating house, now swarming with police and medics. Is it Emily? Nathan asked desperately. We're assessing, an officer said. Stay here. A medic emerged, carrying a small figure in a blanket. Nathan saw chestnut hair. Emily, he cried, restrained by an officer. Let the medics work, the officer said. Nathan glimpsed her pale face, unmistakably Emily. That's her, he choked. Juan confirmed. That's the girl from the lighthouse. We'll get you to the hospital, the officer said. But we need you here a bit longer. Officers carried a body bag from the floating house. Nathan knew it was Laura. Grief hit like a wave. Then another officer said, "What we found with your wife. It's disturbing." "What do you mean?" Nathan asked, dread rising. The officer opened the body bag slightly. Nathan gasped. Laura's body was mutilated, unrecognizable. He collapsed, rage and sorrow overwhelming him. Officers emerged with the insulated boxes. "Evidence," one said grimly. "Disturbing evidence." More items were carried from the cabin, a notebook, the tackle box. Nathan's stomach churned. "We need you at the station," an officer said. "I need Emily," Nathan insisted. "She's at Silvercliff General," the officer said. "You'll see her soon, but we need your statement." Nathan agreed reluctantly. The boat ride back was a blur. At the station, Nathan and Juan gave detailed statements. "Why?" Nathan asked Detective Torres. "Why take them? Why keep Emily alive?" "The evidence is disturbing," Torres said. The boxes held preserved remains, body parts from multiple victims, labeled in jars. The tackle box had his tools. "Your wife's remains." He hadn't finished. Resin blocks encased personal items, including Emily's hair. Nathan clenched his fists. "Trophies. Tributes," Torres corrected. His journals show an obsession with preserving perfect family units. A photo album had staged pictures of victims as his family. "Why?" Nathan demanded. "Not sexual," Torres said. He wanted to save mother-daughter pairs from time's decay. William Grayson was a marine architect. 18 years ago, his wife and daughter died in an accident on a pier he designed. Guilt drove him to buy the lighthouse and isolate. He believed he was saving pairs, honoring them. "That's insane," Juan said. "He blamed himself," Torres continued. This was his twisted atonement. Laura and Emily's boat sank near the lighthouse. He sheltered them, promising help, but restrained them when Laura grew suspicious. He kept them in the lighthouse while building his hideout on Fong Island. He was relocating, Nathan realized. "Yes," Torres said. "Silvercliff was too risky." Emily was seen when he returned for items, sedated but able to reach the dock. "If I'd stopped," Juan said, regretful. "Your report saved her," Torres said. "Laura was killed today, likely when he knew he couldn't move her." "How many others?" Nathan asked. "For other pairs over 12 years, Torres said. "We're notifying families." "What now?" Nathan asked. "Grayson faces multiple charges," Torres said. "An insanity defense is unlikely. He'll never be free." "I need Emily," Nathan said. "An officer will take you," Torres said. The drive to Silvercliff General was agonizing.
Dr. Elena Ruiz met Nathan.
"Emily's stable," she said. "Sedated but waking. She has malnutrition and an infection, but she'll recover physically with care. Psychologically, it'll be a long road." "And Laura?" Nathan asked. "The autopsy's ongoing," Ruiz said. "Her remains will be released soon." "I want her to have peace," Nathan said. "We'll help when you're ready," Ruiz said. "Emily's your focus now." A nurse led Nathan to Emily's room. She lay in a large bed, for in her arm monitors beeping. Her short hair and pale face were unfamiliar, but she was alive. Nathan took her hand, and her fingers twitched. "Emily," he whispered. "Daddy's here." Her eyelids fluttered. Nathan sat, holding her hand, speaking softly. As dusk fell, her eyes opened. "Daddy?" she whispered, uncertain. "It's me," Nathan said, tears falling. "You're safe." "Mommy," she sobbed. "The bad man took her." "I know," Nathan said, holding her. "She was so brave." "She told me to be strong," Emily said. "Said you'd find us." "I never stopped," Nathan said. "I want Mommy back," Emily cried. "She can't come back," Nathan said. "But she loved you so much. She kept you safe. Emily nodded, tears falling. She told me stories every night. That's her? Nathan said, wiping her tear. They held each other, Emily's sobs easing. The sea had taken Laura but led to Emily's rescue. In their shared grief, hope flickered, not for the past, but for a future built on Laura's love.